Can I please request for all of you to be silent? Please switch off your mobile phone. Our guests have arrived. Good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to bid farewell. The University of Delhi has a huge and ever-growing diaspora of very accomplished alumni, and we thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Yogesh Tyagi, for yet again providing us a platform to develop and enhance the symbiotic relationship between the university and its alumni. The genesis of Percipience lies in the need to create a lifelong engagement in order to increase awareness, knowledge, insight, pride, participation, and philanthropic commitment. We begin the day's proceedings with the national anthem. Can I request all present to please stand?
शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे सब जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
Faculty member, Padma Shri Dr. Leela Omchari, the music faculty. auspicious beginning, can I now request our guest, Shri Vivek Devroy, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Yogesh Tyagi, respected Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor J.P. Khurana, respected Registrar, Professor Karun Das, respected Dean of Academics, Kamil Dua, Dean Alumni Affairs, Professor Sidney Rivero, to kindly light the lamp. The auspicious lighting of lamp will be accompanied by a shlok from Upanishad. Shri Vivek Devroy, Professor Yogesh Tyagi, and Professor J.P. Khurana to take their place on the dais. The music choir now presents a rendition of Chaupai from the Ramcharitmanas. To explain the bhav and meaning, can I request Ms. Vrindana Rahasya, a lecturer at the music faculty, to join me.
नमस्कार। अब संगीत संकाय प्रस्तुत करेगा गोस्वामी तुलसीदास जी के रामचरितमानस के कुछ प्रसंगों से ली गई चौपाइयाँ, जिसकी स्वरचना की है संकाय के ही अध्यापक डॉक्टर हरिकिशन गोस्वामी जी। इन चौपाइयों का सार यही है कि प्रभु राम के चरणों की रज यानी धूल उस काजल के समान है जो नेत्रों के दोष का नाश करती है। श्री राम की भक्ति को गंगा की धारा के तुल्य बताया गया है। चौथी चौपाई में नवधा भक्ति का ज्ञान देते हुए भगवान राम शबरी से कह रहे हैं कि साधु संतों की संगति से भी ज्ञान आता है एवं वे तो मानो स्वयं तीर्थराज, अर्थात गुरु की संगत में आना ही संसार का मूल है।
So much for the soul-stirring rendition. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest this afternoon, our distinguished alumnus, Sri Vivek Debroy. Vivek Debroy, an economist, was educated in Ramakrishna Mission School, Presidency College, Kolkata, Delhi School of Economics, and Trinity College, Cambridge. Presently, he is Chairman, Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister and member, Niti Aayog, Government of India. He has worked in Presidency College, Kolkata, Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics, Pune, Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, Delhi, as the Director of a Ministry of Finance UNDP project on legal reforms, Department of Economic Affairs, National Council of Applied Economic Research, Rajiv Gandhi Institute for Contemporary Studies, PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and then Center for Policy Research. He has authored several books, papers, and popular articles, and has also been a contributing editor with several newspapers. We extend a very warm welcome to you, sir. Can I please request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Yogesh Tyagi, to felicitate Sri Vivek Debroy with a memento, shawl, and a potted plant.
What I will do is first talk a little bit about governance. So that will be the first segment. In the second segment, I will talk about the Mahabharata, the Ramayana and the Puranas. And in the third segment, I will try and weave those two strands together. As you can see, I don't have a written text, and therefore what I say may seem to be somewhat unstructured. Deliberately so, because the intention behind whatever I'm going to say today, this afternoon, is to make you. Let's start with the word governance. But before starting with the word governance, let me give you two anecdotes. Everyone who's familiar with the Indian economy, regardless of whether you studied at the Delhi School of Economics or not, is familiar with the fact that since 1991, significant economic reforms have been introduced. 1991 in some ways represented a walk. The incident that I am about to describe to you, the first anecdote, is from roughly the year 1990. Roughly, I don't remember the exact year, might have been 94. What are the reforms about? However you define the reforms are about competition, they are about efficiency, they are about choice to consume. So roughly 1993 or 94, I decided to conduct an experiment. I compiled a list of the Hall of Fame of Indian industry. I went to FICCI, CII, ASSOCHAM, PhD, got a list of their members and drew up the Hall of Fame of India. And I wrote to 1,000 of those firms. I wrote to 1,000 of those companies. Wrote, because remember the year 1993, 1994. Those were not the days of WhatsApp and email. Those were the days when you wrote letters. You used faxes. I wrote to them and I complained about trivial matters. Very, very trivial. What kind of trivial matter? Let me give you an example. I wrote to Britannia and I said, I buy Bourbois cream biscuits. Half the time I find that the cream is on the wrong side. That kind of trivial. I wrote to 1,000. Out of 1,996 did not bother. Out of 1,000, 4 replied. Out of the 4 that replied, 3 said, we are very sorry to hear about your complaint. Our authorized representative will call on you soon. It has been 20 odd years, the authorized representative On the same note, let me give you another related anecdote of more recent vintage. As you have gathered from the introduction, I now work for the government. And therefore we live in government accommodation. We move house. I and my wife both have bank accounts with different banks. I will not name the banks, but they are private sector banks. So as dutiful citizens, we wrote to the bank saying we have shifted house. Will you please change our address? The banks replied saying, where is the ownership deed for the house? So there is no ownership deed, the house belongs to the government. Where is the tenancy agreement? There isn't a tenancy agreement. Where are the utility bills? So the utility bills are paid for by UTIS. I don't have any utility bills. Sorry, we can't do it. This went on for 6 months. Then in exasperation, on a Sunday evening, my wife tells me, what is this? You're supposed to work for UTI when you can't even get your address changed in the bank account? And you're going to change the country? So in desperation, I sent SMSs to the owners' heads. Those particular banks who buy do not. On Monday morning, all 3 addresses. I work for them. All of you are citizens, and all of you have expectations that the government should deliver them. All of you have expectations that the government should be more efficient. But the government is not an entity that exists in isolation. The government is part of an overall ecosystem. And if that ecosystem is inefficient, if that ecosystem does not recognize competition and efficiency, if that ecosystem is resistant to change, how on earth do you reasonably expect the government to wave a magic wand and change the country from there? The next anecdote concerns the railways. I was the chairman of a committee that was set up to examine the reform of the railways, in the course of which I travelled around the country on train. When I said I travelled around the country on train, I do not mean the Rajdhani and the Shatabdi. I mean ordinary trains. Once, we were on such an ordinary train. In the middle of the night, on a deserted railway station, at about 2:30 in the morning, and this train had stopped to allow a Rajdhani or Shatabdi to pass. This was not the best of states. It's one of the North Indian states. So we ascertained that the train was going to stop there for 40 minutes. Middle of the night, 2:30 in the morning, deserted platform. So my wife and I decided to get down. We are walking along the platform. Deserted platform. No one there except a footstep. suddenly along comes a hefty, tall man. Goes to that food stall, buys a packet of chips, eats the chips, and throws the wrapper on the floor. I can see my wife advancing and know what is likely to happen, so I'm pretending that I do not know her, following at about 10 feet behind. I said after this government came into being, the Railway Committee was formed, so we are talking about 2016. Goes up to this man, taps him on the shoulder. He says, "उठा के कचरे के डब्बे में." Garbage bin. Both of us marvel at this. We go to the food stall owner and we say, "This is remarkable in this state, this particular state." You cannot name middle of the week. He said, "Before the Swachh Bharat, ye asar." I said I will begin with the use of the word governance. What does the word governance mean? There are plenty of fanciful definitions of the word governance floating around. There is a word called governance. There is a word called government. Are the two words government and governance the same thing? Or these different? If the two words are synonymous, then why do we use the word governance? Why not simply say government? As I said, there are sophisticated definitions of the word governance. UNDP, World Bank, OECD, EU, if you look at all of those definitions, and it has become a buzzword, everyone uses the word governance to rank something or the other these days. If you look at all of these definitions, you will find there is a critical difference between governance. Governance is about the decision-making process. Governance is about people. Governance is about citizens. Governance is about other organs, not just the government. If we want to change India, as all of us do, if we want India to be a better governed country, as all of us do, if we want India to be a more prosperous country, as all of us do, if we want India to have less of poverty, as all of us do, it is our collective responsibility. So governance is about the preamble to the Indian Constitution, which begins with the expression, "We the people." That is what governance is. So just farm this thought for them. We. Let me now turn to Mahabharata, Ramayana. When I say Ramayana here, I meant Valmiki Ramayana. Or if not Valmiki Ramayana, I meant certainly the Sanskrit Ramayans. And there are Sanskrit Ramayans other than the Valmiki Ramayana. For the Mahabharata and for the Valmiki Ramayana, just so that no one accuses me of having not stated facts correctly, there are critical For the Mahabharata, the critical edition was brought out by the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute in Pune, and for the Valmiki Ramayana, the critical edition was brought out by the Oriental Research Institute in Baroda. Let me use the Mahabharata as an example. Writing is of recent age. These texts were passed down to us through a process of oral transmission. In this process of oral transmission, quite often there were slight variations. So even though the Mahabharata is the same story, in different parts of India you will have slight twists. Did Vedavyas actually dictate to Ganesha? You'll find it in some versions, you won't find it in other versions. And so on and so forth. No major differences, but slight differences here and there. Altogether in India, and when I mention this figure, people are often surprised. Altogether in India, there were about 1,215 different versions of the Sanskrit Mahabharata. 1,012. All of them varying with each other, not in major details, but in minor details here and there. The Bhandarkar Oriental Research produced this critical edition between the years 1916 and 1966. It took them 50 years. And what did they do? They did something that is very reminiscent of what in school, while studying mathematics, we used to call HCF, highest common factor. So if a particular shloka occurred in a large number of versions, the probability was pretty high that it must have been part of the original, whatever that original might have been. Bhandarkar did this for the Mahabharata. Baroda did this for the Valmiki Ramayana. For the Puranas, we have no such critical editions because no one has them. The Puranas together, the major Puranas together, number 18, Ashtadas Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is believed to have 100,000 books. The Puranas together, the 18 Mahapuranas together, amount to 400,000 books. 4 times the size of the Mahabharata. In our very, very simplistic, linear version of what has happened in history, we tend to think Valmiki Ramayana was composed first. Vedavyasa came around and composed the Mahabharata. And then after that, Vedavyasa composed the Puranas. This is a very simplified, linear impression we have about what went on. And when I say this, you also recognize, purely for purposes of academic purity, that the texts we have today are not necessarily the texts as they were originally composed, because there have been embellishments in the process of oral transmission. It's also true that all of these texts were probably composed over a period of 1,000 years. Normally, this linear perception exists Because there is no direct reference to the Mahabharata in the Bhagavad. This is a knowledgeable audience. So suppose I say, Na tvam shochitum arhasi. Na tvam shochitum arhasi. Where does this come from? Any suggestions? Hopefully from a student. Raise your hand. And yes, please. Excellent. Na tvam shochitum arhasi will obviously be identified with the Bhagavad Gita. Sit. It may no doubt surprise you that the expression Natvam Shochitum Arhasi occurs on several occasions in the Valmiki Ramayana, which suggests to me that Valmiki was aware of the contents of the Bhagavad Gita but did not want to directly refer to it. In the Valmiki Ramayana, you will find references to the story of Yayati. You will find references to the stories of Vatapi and Ilval, all of which are there in the Mahabharata, not in the Valmiki Ramayana. In all probability, all of these texts evolved parallelly. They freely transmitted the corpus from one to the other. If I take that linear view of history, in the Mahabharata, we are told that Shuka, Vedavyasa's son, attained moksha, attained liberation. He merged into nature, he merged into the trees. Puranas happened afterwards. So how is it that if the Puranas happened afterwards, that Shuka recounts some of these Puranas? I can go on and on. To reiterate, I think all of these evolved in parallel and traded freely with each other. What do we equate Hinduism with? What do we equate Sanskrit with? We equate it with revolution, then leaving aside forks. But normally we will equate them with Upanishad. We will equate them with Brahmanas. We will equate them with Aranyakas. We will equate them with Vedanta. Enough. What were the four ashrams? Brahmacharya, Garhastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. How many people actually go on sannyasa? And I am using the word sannyasa in the standard sense of the term, which means to renounce everything and go off to the forest. I am not interpreting the word sannyasa in the sense of nyasa, being engaged in the path of sat, which is what all of us are supposed to do. How many people go off on vanaprastha? How many people go off on sannyasa? It not be a very high percentage. Even in a country like Bhutan, where lamas are publicly funded, it's just around 10%. So, simple point. About 5% of the population was probably in Vanaprastha. About 5% of the population was probably in sannyasa. What was the rest of the population doing then? The rest of the population then was doing exactly what the bulk of the population is doing today. God has told us. So if I am going to use the word dharma, and the word dharma is not to be equated with the word religion, that's misleading. Dharma is yah dharyate sah dharma, that which holds up is dharma. Interpreted in this particular sense, dharma is nothing but governance. Dharma is not just moksha dharma, that of course. But otherwise, dharma in the sense of dharma, artha, kama, the three purusharthas, are exactly what governance is about. So if I look for a text that will tell me what we were supposed to do as householders, which is what governance is about, I should not be looking at texts that were composed for those who were sannyasis and those in Vanas. I should not be looking at Ishavasya idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat and expect that to tell me something about governance. I should be looking at texts that are about governance. And the Mahabharata and the Puranas, more than the Valmiki Ramayana, are about that dharma. About what we are supposed to do as citizens. About what the king, the government of that day and age is supposed to do about governance. Are you aware that there is something called the National Manuscript Mission? Namami's job is to initially list and later on do other things, but initially list manuscripts that exist in private and public. So, a manuscript being defined as a written puthi, written text, that is at least 75 years. I am not even talking about the knowledge that existed and has been lost through a process of oral tradition. As of today, Namami has listed 3.5 million. Namami's estimate, unofficial, is that there are almost 40 million manuscripts in India. Almost 40 million. Remember that. 40 million. Question: how many books have been published? How many books have been published in any language in the world since the beginning of printing? Since Gutenberg's Bible, how many books have been published in any language in the world? The UN has a figure. And what is that figure? 130 million. 130 million? A figure given by the United Nations on books published in any language in the world. 40 million our manuscripts. How many of these manuscripts have been translated? Not more than 5. So 95% of our manuscripts, 2/3 of which are in Sanskrit, have not yet been translated. Some people here are Hindus. You will go to temples. Are you aware that the basis on which we construct temples today, one of the earliest sources, the earliest possible source, is the Matsya Purana, which has never been translated word for word into English. It has been translated once into English, but not word for word. The entire Greek civilization's corpus, which one talks about all the time, maximum of 20,000 words. You've got 20,000, they've got 30 million. Whose responsibility is it to get this translated? Is this the responsibility of Harvard and Oxford and Heidelberg to get these things translated, or is it our collective responsibility? And it is remarkable what these texts say. I have a 13th century text which I have not translated. I am wondering whether I should do it or not. If I were to translate it, it will amount to a book of about 300 pages. I just look subconsciously at the envelope. I pencil in hope that we get this translated. This text is called Chodya Shastra. As the title suggests, it is a manual for thieves. So it is unimaginable the kinds of things these texts were on. On governance, if I were to ask you, give me the name of a text on governance that goes back many thousands of years, you will say Kautilya's Arthashastra. Are you aware that Kautilya's Arthashastra had completely vanished? References existed, but the text had completely vanished until Professor Shyama Shastri discovered it in the year 1905 and translated it. Exactly. There is a treasure trove of information on governance in these texts, including the Mahabharata. Let me now turn to the theme. If I ask you, give me an Indian or Sanskrit word for king, you will probably say Raja or Rajan. But every king is not a Raja or Raja. There are other words for king. Nripa is a word for a king. But every Nripa is not a Raja or a Raja. A Raja or a Rajan etymologically is someone who delights the subject. So if you are not going to delight the subjects, you are not a Raja. Time for a story. There was a very bad king. And this bad king's name was Vena. Vena was a very bad king. Vena did not protect the virtuous. Vena did not punish the wicked. So therefore, the country was in very bad shape. The Brahmanas had a great deal of powers in that day and age. The Brahmanas therefore used their powers to kill Vena. So Vena was dead. But when Vena died, Vena did not have any sons. He had no offspring, so there was no king. And when there was no king, there was anarchy, there was chaos. The virtuous were not protected, the wicked were not punished, law and order collapsed, there were bandits everywhere, property was not safe. What was to be done? The Brahmanas began to lead Vena's right arm. Vena's right arm was very thick. The word Prithu means thick, stout. When they began to knead Vena's right arm, which was thick or stout, a son emerged. And because the right arm was thick and stout, Prithu, his son was named It is Prithu who first leveled out the mountains and created habitations and fields for agriculture. It is Prithu who first laid down the rules under which the earth and its resources could be used without leading to unnecessary exploitation, which is why the earth became Prithu's daughter and came to be known as Prithvi or Prithvi. Prithu was the first. If you read what the king was supposed to do at that time, the king's primary purpose was rule of law, dispute resolution, rule of law, punishing the wicked, protecting the virtuous, and ensuring property. If I take a vote around this room and ask you, what do you think the government should do? All of you will have your own list of priorities. Someone will say, but before that, how much of GDP is collected by the government in the form of tax? Union and state government taken together, just about 17%. So 17% of GDP is collected as taxes by both sets of government taken together. In Kautilya's time, the tax GDP ratio effectively was exactly the same, 16.96. So 17% of GDP is what the governments in India collect as taxes. Now consider our demands today. Today we expect all kinds of things from the government. The government should do this, the government should do that. Why isn't the government doing this? We want the government to spend, we as within quotes, 10% on infrastructure. We want the government to spend 6% on education, right? 16%. We want the government to spend 4% on health, okay? 16 plus 4, 20%. We want the government to spend 3% on defense, alright? 23%. So we are already at 23%. And 17% is what we expect to contribute. I'm not opening up the debate here, but I am making 2 points. Whenever we expect governments to do anything, implicitly there is a prioritization of resources. If I am using the resources for this, I cannot use the resources for that. And secondly, in terms of prioritization, if I ask everyone around this room what your priorities are, somewhere down the line we will find that most of us will agree that the most important item for the government to ensure is the country's defense, security, and loyalty, speedy dispute resolution, and protection of property. This is exactly what the Rajan was supposed to do then. There are many things we expect the government to do today that historically was not done by the Rajan. And I don't have to go back thousands of years. The British authored gazetteers. First they authored gazetteers for all of India, and then they authored gazetteers for individual districts. And they were very good at documenting everything that was going on. Ambala District Gazetteer for the year 1880. Ambala District Gazetteer for the year 1880. What was happening in 1883 in Ambala? In the year 1883 in Ambala, a canal had to be constructed. A canal had to be constructed. How much was this canal going to cost? This is not Kautilya's time, this is Ambala 1883. This canal was going to cost 45,000 rupees in 1883. The government paid 20,000. Who paid the remaining 25,000? The community paid the remaining 25,000. Today you ask the community to pay the remaining 25,000 and there will be howls of protest. To anticipate something that I was going to say right at the end, but let me now quickly flag it. That in our structure of governance or dharma, as I put it, there was a clear three-tier structure. This is what the government was supposed to do. This is what the king or the Rajan was supposed to do. This is what the community was supposed to do. And this is what we as individual grihasthas were supposed to do. Over a period of time, as a community and as individuals, we have abdicated ours. And hence I come back to something I started off with, the expression, we the people. Who do you think ensured MRP in that day? The Srenis or the guilds? Who do you think ensured that there weren't any unfair trade practices or restrictive business practices? The Srenis or the guilds? Who ensured skill formation? The Srenis or the guilds? One of the earliest, the second earliest report on police reforms in India was for the year 1901 and 1902. Read the report of the Police Reforms Commission in 1901. To understand how the system of policing before the British supplanted it worked on the police. The strength of our texts on governance is that it has this very strong community. If I caricature and say that the state is about socialism, and if I caricature and say that the individual is about the market oblique capitalism, the great strength of our text is this other thing. Now let me come to the individual. And which individual am I talking about? The individual I am talking about is, as I said, not the individual who has gone off on Vanaprastha and Sannyas. It is the individual who is a grihastha. For the individual who is a grihastha, the most important thing was not moksha, but the 5 Pancha Mahayajnas that I did. The 5 Pancha Mahayajnas to extinguish the 5 debts that I have to gods, to rishis, to ancestors, to human beings, and to animals. 5 Professor Tyagi has not yet invited me for dinner. I don't mean today. If he invites me for dinner, I and my wife will have a debate. Okay, we are going for dinner. What shall we take him as a gift? But in our system, when he invites us or me for dinner, he is not doing me a favor that I should take him a gift. That's completely Western. It is the guest who is doing a favor by giving the opportunity to the host. So in our description we will find when the guest comes, he is given padya to wash the feet. He has been given achamaniya to wash the mouth. He is given a seat and he is given a gift, arghya. Atithi is not a gift. If I invite him, he is not Atithi. Atithi is someone who turns up unannounced, uninvited, or one of the Grihastha's duties was to eat after Atithis have eaten. In fact, even after the servants have eaten. In the course of my work, I have to travel throughout rural parts also. I don't think this, what I am about to describe, is extremely common in the metro, certainly not in Delhi and Mumbai or Bangalore or Hyderabad. But when I go to rural areas, if it happens to be around meal time, the person will say, Khana khati. That is part of the Sanskrit is a beautiful language, and I will end by mentioning a few things. Sanskrit is a beautiful language. Amongst other things, in Sanskrit, the verb is important. So if you know about 2000 verbal roots, you can deduce the meaning of any word. And for anyone who knows Sanskrit, the moment you see a word, the verb comes along with it. Now let me explain, otherwise you do not know Sanskrit. I see that tree outside, and there are plenty of words for the word tree in Sanskrit. One of which is Padapaha. What does the word Padapaha mean? Of course it means tree. But Padapaha means something that brings with its feet. That is what Padapaha is. So the moment I see the word Padapaha, it resonates in terms of that image of drinking with the feet. When I see that chair is asandaha. It's not just asandaha as a chair that is being conveyed to me, but something that gives me a posture. Why is this relevant and important? I think it's relevant and important because the language, whether it is Sanskrit or whether it is a derived language, shapes our shapes our Sanskriti, shapes our culture, shapes our world view. And if the verb is important, then I moves to the back. So anyone who's in this, regardless of whether that person knows Sanskrit or does not know Sanskrit, as long as the person knows an Indian language, will normally not say, I am. That comes to us very reluctant. We will normally say, my name is today. And if I am not too worried about being very stilted, I will say, I am known by the name of Jesus. It's important in this day and age, where the first thing that happens to me in the morning is I get WhatsApp messages saying, read my art, watch my input. For us, in our tradition, it is very easy, comes to us naturally, to push aham and mama. And that is the reason I asked on this community. Because in discovering our texts on governance, that is the part that we have completely. I see a lot of young people. My last little bit is a plea to you. All of us will want to do. When I travel, I can sense this vibrant, turbulent India that is pushing to move along. Whether it is in Kashmir, whether it is near Kanyakumari, whether it is in Gujarat, whether it is in Arunachal, for that India, I prosper. One, don't expect the government to do it. But Bharat, giving up LPG subsidies, all of these, the shaping of smart cities, where a large part is left to citizens. So therefore, if I look at the two top cities, Bhubaneswar and Pune, the way the citizens of Bhubaneswar have interpreted smartness is slightly different from the way the citizens of Pune have. A change in here, all of us need to take that responsibility, which actually is part of the Constitution, which we not afford to have. And second, there are major lessons in our texts on ability. Most of the time, we don't read them. Most of the time, if we read them, we are regarded as crazy. But regardless of how people look at us, that is our strength. That is our strength. Thank you once again for having invited me, especially the Honorable Vice Chancellor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vivek Debroy, for a spellbinding lecture with fascinating ideas about governance and government, evolution of literary texts like Ramayana and Mahabharata, extremely interesting insights on history. Also, thank you, sir, for sharing with us such a rare occurrence, a double doctorate in disciplines that seemed so distant, economics and Sanskrit. Thanks again. I would now like to request respected Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor J.P. Purana, to propose the vote of thanks.
Namaskar, good evening. Friends, we have come to close of this lecture held under the banner of Percipience, the Eminent Alumni lecture series which we started about 2 years ago. This was third such lecture under the series. It is my present duty to propose the vote of thanks for all those who have made this function a success. First and foremost, on behalf of Ministry of Delhi and on my own behalf, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Vivek Roy, Chairman, Economic Advisory Council, and member of Niti Aayog Government of India, for accepting our invitation and delivering an insightful lecture on the notion of governance of the Mahabharata, Ramayana and Puranas. We as Indians have learnt a lot from these epics since our childhood, imbibed culture and values. In the past 2 decades, the TV serial Ramayana, I think it was directed by Ramanand Sagar, brought it again to our household, and it was popular amongst all age groups. One could also see on Sunday morning when this program was televised, roads used to be empty, and that is where we relate ourselves to these epics. It gave us a lot of values to teach. But today's lecture was from totally different perspective with respect to governance, that we could relate those ethics to our present day scenario. I'm sure all of us have enjoyed your thought-provoking lecture, and it was indeed very, very passionately given lecture. It must have motivated some of our youngsters and also a lot of young people to take up the challenge that Dr. Vivek Roy has posed to translate some of our epics into present-day languages, Hindi or English, and also popularize that world over. I thank you once again, Dr. Vivek Roy, for this very, very interesting lecture. I would also like to express our gratitude to our Vice Chancellor for presiding over this function, and also all the advice and encouragement he has given to make this function a success. In organizing a lecture like that, a lot of planning needs to be done, and this all effort and work has been done by Swami Dua, Dean Academics, Dr. Shagini Bakshi, Deputy Dean Culture, and they deserve a round of applause for this. I would also like to place on record the effort made by the Office of the Vice Chancellor and also the Registrar and all the staff associated for doing all the and following all the nitty-gritties to make sure that everything is in place for this particular lecture by Dr. Vivek Roy. Our team of artists, students and teachers of the Faculty of Music and Fine Art, they deserve a big round of applause from all of us. Needless to say, Ramcharitmanas Chopai rendition was apt on this particular occasion. Thank you very much. Let me also take this opportunity to thank all our invited guests, faculty members, and also students and staff of Delhi University who have joined us on this particular occasion. I thank you all once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Can I now request all present to please stand for the national anthem?
विनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंग विंध हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
us to the end of a captivating afternoon. Please join us for high tea. Thank you.